Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. With me, Zakky, Dausar Muhammad, and Siti and Chodijah. Alhamdulillah, in this opportunity, we should like to present our presentation about role play for improving English speaking skill. A study at SM Junior High School, PGRI 10, Candi, Sidoarjo. And we go to the background. Here we are the several factors behind the problem of low English speaking skill in students. The first is students are less interested and motivated in following speaking skill activities. And the second factor is the students' attitudes look tense and less relaxed in following speaking activities. And the last factor behind the problem of low English speaking skill in students is lack of practice are applied in learning. The aim of studying English is to make the learner understand and speak English fluently, according to Soraya 2017. And one of the language skills that are very important in everyday life is speaking, according to Pinati 2021. And the important is to make the student now early, to make them familiar with it. And students are expected to apply speaking in their daily life. And however, an effective oral communication media is speaking. And we go to the method. The design that we use in this study is classroom action research. Classroom action research is the design that obtaining four steps. The first step is planning, the second is action, the third observation, and the last or fourth is reflection. And the data collection that we use in this study, the first is observation techniques, the second interviews, and the data analysis technique from data collection, data reduction, data presentation, and the last drawing conclusion. And for the participant that of the study that were from the English teacher and 16 students from the 9th grade junior high school of PGRI 10 Candi. And the sample that we use is random sampling, and the sample that were taken are from 4 students, 2 from male and 2 from female. And from the result, the effort made by the student of class 9 junior high school of PGRI 10 Candi in speaking through role play method. The first is from the pre-cycle. The pre-cycle, the data were collected by the researchers using 2 different instruments. The first instrument is from the teacher and student interview guidelines, and also the second were from the observation sheets. And the result of interview guidelines report from teachers in the pre-cycle are the first. The students asked to memorizing vocabularies according to the teacher. The second, the most problem in learning is no activities that support the learning, such as course or other. And the third, the way in facing the students is force them to try to speak. And the fourth, most of students preferably in speaking.
Yeah, this is the result of interview with students. Based on interview guidelines for the teacher, this opinion is also supported by the result of interview with sample of students in grade 9B. They said that they didn't like participating in speaking lesson in class because they were afraid, embarrassed, and had difficulty expressing thought and feelings verbally in front of the class when seen by the teacher and other students. Meanwhile, based on observation states the result of research where teacher use existing old lesson plans without any lesson plans innovation according to current standard, namely that there is no exploration, elaboration, or confirmation, which is clearly laid out, and students are less interested in learning because the teacher use conventional methods of learning. And then the position of the teacher when teaching is more in front and paid less attention to the students sitting at the back. And the last, the process of learning speaking skill is less effective and evasion, which means it is still individual in nature and is general. Based on these problems, discussion were held by teachers and researchers to find solution to the problems contained in the implementation of speaking. And so that an agreement was reached that researchers would conduct classroom action research with class 9B teacher as collaborators with the title Improving Speaking Skill Using the Role-Playing Method. And for cycle 1, the stage in first cycle are as follows: action planning. In action planning, there are developed learning implementation lesson plans, preparing supporting facilities, and preparing the observation sheets lesson plans for teacher learning implementation. And number 2 is action implementation. For action implementation, the description of the implementation of first cycle of action is as follows. The core of learning with a duration of about 35 minutes. The activities carried out by the teacher in the core of learning have three forms of action, namely exploration, elaboration, and confirmation. Systematically, at the beginning of the learning core, exploratory action were carried out so that students were able to explore their initial understanding. The teacher conduct question as answer with students as follow. Mention the factor supporting the effective of speaking. Why does of speaking in play a drama character determine the assessment or success of the drama? And the next action is elaboration. Students are explained again the things that needs to be considered when play a role in the drama, including the factors supporting the effectiveness of speaking include pronunciation, intonation, fluency, expression, and understanding the content of the drama. The explanation is carried out using the demonstration method, namely demonstrating effective ways of speaking. Next, each group of students came forward to act from a short script that had been given by the teacher. In this role play activity, the assessment is only focused on speaking skill. Then, confirmation activities, namely giving rewards and reinforcement to each group and awarding the best role players. And for observation, teacher learning implementation lesson plans and student attitudes in the learning process in the first cycle. The students were seen to be more active and serious compared to the first cycle. And classically, there is an increase in interest, activity, cooperation, and sincerity in students. And for reflection, based on observation, the researchers conclude that the quality of the process and the result of the first cycle of speaking learning had shown a significant improvement from the pre-cycle. The success of the speaking learning process in first cycle can be seen from the following indicators: interest, activity, cooperation, and seriousness. And for discussion, based on the result of action research, it can be stated that there is an increase in the quality of speaking skill, both the process and result of speaking skill using the role play method in the cycle one. Sorry, for cycle. And the result of this study are supported by several studies which also state the role play method help improve students' speaking skill. The first was from Soraya. This stated that students started to improve their speaking in the second cycle. In the third cycle, the students were able to pronounce the words and were fluent when performing the role play. The same thing happened the following year, namely from I Gusti Ayu, stated that the implementation of role play as an appropriate the teaching technique in the 21st century that can stimulate students' learning, especially in speaking classes, can be one alternative. Role play has many advantages. One of them is to urge students to speak. And for conclusion, based on the data analysis and discussion, it could be concluded that this research can improve students' speaking skill with only the first cycle. The role play method will have a much greater effect of improving the speaking skill of class 9B students at junior high school PGRI 10 if teacher and students continue to use this method. And thank you for us. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.